Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to LeadSpeak, an event of Valor of Bangladesh, presented by Habib Bank Limited and powered by Azfar Hassan Development Network. I have with me two esteemed guests today. One, the power woman of this industry, a torchbearer of our pioneer garments exporter, the first Bangladesh export-oriented garments, Desh Garments, the successors of Desh Garment and director of Vidiya Ms. Vidiya Amrit, DMD of Desh Garments and director of Vidiya. And on my left, I have with me Azfar Hassan, director of Sayem Group and also the director of Valor, and a youth icon taking charge in this industry as a young generation and making impossibles happen. So, along with that, I'm your moderator today, and this is Azfar Hassan, president of Valor. And I would like to first take the opportunity of explaining what Valor is, and then I'll come to what we will be talking about today, because then you'll understand about the whole event and the flow, and then I'll get to our speakers to discuss and shed light on how we are connecting the dots in the RMG industry to take it forward. So having said that, I would first would love to take the opportunity of explaining what Valor is. It is a platform of successors and young generations of this industry uniting together to take charge of this industry and taking it forward, working with all other associations and stakeholders of this industry. Because right now, the industry has become so fast-paced and changing with so many challenges and opportunities, and so many successors are coming in, taking the lead role. We felt the importance of aligning all this young generation together so that we can actually work unitedly and in a data-driven approach and environment. So Valor is a research-driven, membership-based organization where we have the youths of this industry working towards innovation, working towards making a data-driven environment. We work on white papers. We recently released our white paper on the road to recovery of this RMG industry, and we are working together on building a strong network of young entrepreneurs from the RMG industry. Having said that, won't take much more time on this, and I would like to take forward the discussion of today, which is how this RMG industry can grow further, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities from the perspective of successors, from the perspective of young generations, from the perspective of the changing environment and how we are seeing the next decade. So, with all due respect, I will first get to you, Ms. Vidiya. So I'll call you Vidiya Apu, and I want to ask you, as you're continuing the legacy of the first export-oriented garments, Desh Garments, which is actually why the whole this garment thing started, and we take pride of always talking about Desh Garments. And this Desh Garments is actually what has given birth to this modern industry of what we see today. So how have you noticed the changes from the beginning days till now, and how it has taken place? I would love to know something about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you have mentioned, when we have started speaking, a lot of the young generation and the new generation and the second generation, and then also you've used the word successor. So, as I was informally discussing this with you before, I find myself to be in a very unique position because, I'm not exactly third generation, no. I'm not new generation. Everybody who is second generation is much older than me. Because if I look at the time of my father and those who started the industry, it was a very different time. And when my father set up Desh Garments, I was not even born. So, I'm in a very, very unique situation. Also, possibly because I'm a woman. I'm not the first women director of the GMBA, but I suppose I am the most remembered or prominent, and I came into the GMBA at a very crucial time, right after the unfortunate tragedy of the Rana Plaza incident. So I have personally been working in this industry since the end of 2007, just about a little under 15 years, and apart from that, I am a barrister, so I did not have an idea of how this industry works. But of course, Desh Garments, as you have rightly mentioned, is the first 100% export-orientated ready-made garment factory that was set up by my father in the company was established in 1977. He took 130 employees, trainees, and sent them to the 18 women for the first time in the history of garments or industrialization in Bangladesh to be trained in South Korea in Daewoo's facility for 6 months, which is they were trained in sewing processes, commercial, marketing, logistics, the entire concept of how a garment should be. And then 6 months later, they came back and essentially started Desh Garments Ltd. My father then went on to set up or formulate the concept of the back-to-back letter of credit banking system, which is essentially the nucleus of the financial backbone of the garment industry, and also the future-free bonded warehousing system at the factory level. আগে এটা পোর্টে হতো, believe it or not, I think bond commissioner যারা আছে, আমাদের ফ্যাক্টরি যারা আছে, ওরা পোর্টে গিয়ে ডেইলি কাপড় বের করে নিয়ে এসে মেক করে প্রোডাকশনে কাটিয়ে দিত। সো এটা আমরা কোরিয়ানদের থেকে he got this concept and then he implemented it to do it at the factory level. So like you said, প্রথমে যখন হয়েছিল, Desh Garments at its time was, I think, one of the largest industrial facility that was set up to produce garments in Southeast Asia.
Right.
This is not my work. Whatever I do quote is usually from either World Bank resources or Far Eastern Economic Review or Financial Times of that time. Amar Patana. And প্রথমে যখন শুরু হয়েছিল, of course I wasn't there. But I will tell you one thing, as far as industry goes, as far as compliance goes, as far as worker participation in sort of union or associations that they have formally or informally created goes, we don't start with Desh Garments. And Rana Plaza incident যখন হলো, thankfully, although I am now sitting with a building that is 45 years old, or even older, actually, it was built in late 78. So, আমার তখন ওইভাবে কোনো construction করতে হয়, ratification করতে হয়. So I was very lucky. So I started from a very advantageous place, mashallah, and the business is something that I caught on. Now, of course, so fast-paced. It is so tech-savvy. So many softwares, so many apps, so many. I mean, it's just so much easier to monitor and all of that. I remember my father used to say that I built a factory in Chittagong because of the nearness to the port. Quicker, easier, cheaper transport of goods once it's done and manufactured. But আমরা তো ঢাকায় থাকি, তো সারাক্ষণ যাওয়া আসা করতে হচ্ছে। But of course, এখন তো আমাদের হাতের ফোনের সবকিছু, whether it's an app, whether it's data, whether it's software, whether it's CCTV. So it's a very different time, and every crossroad that we come, like Rana Plaza is a huge crossroad, which pushed us in every particular possible way to make our factories compliant. Awareness, workers' awareness, social, structural, fire, electrical, everything was corrected. It triggered the whole concept of green factories, LEED factories, platform factories, and it did good things. So the Rana Plaza tragedy was one, Dhaka, and now with COVID-19 being and all that, and now it's a completely unthought of. And so many people have now decided that now, বিদেশে তো Google বলতে work from home করবি। But আমাদের জন্য অনেক flexibility এসেছে আমাদের mindset. So that's a very good thing. Also, geopolitics and all of that, prices going up and down, China being a very big manufacturer, all of these things have shifted our industries in ways that honestly, just 2 years ago, possibly we would not have thought. Sustainability, Industry 4.0, inclusion of automation and things like that. These are all new concepts.
Right.
So even in my short experience, relatively with the garment industry of just a decade and a little
yes, like 15
more,
years.
I've seen transformational changes, which sort of, I know I'm not that much older, but which you guys have just fallen into. This was really big, technology, Gen X, millennials, you're different. তোমরা হাতে ফোন নিয়েই পড়ো
exactly true
অথচ আমি ইমেল অ্যাড্রেস আমি যখন খুঁজছি প্রথমে হটমেইলে I was in boarding school 1998 there was one computer we had a computer room and the first time my school house mistress said email here's your email address we all sat down we wrote an email to the person next to us or in that room and we were amazed. Oh my God, send for instantly. So, these are the changes which আমাদের জন্য phenomenal, তোমাদের জন্য it's second nature.
Right. I would like to address two things over here. Like one thing you mentioned, like when Desh Garments was started, your father took workers to Korea and did the training and skilled them so that they can bring them back and do the offshoring of garments from Korea to Bangladesh. From Bangladesh, they can start the export. It actually answers, and we can actually root back to our very first step of addressing one big top issue that we are talking about skill development. Like when we talk about product diversification, we often complain that we don't have the right skill set for many products and all. But you see, when we started, we didn't have the right skill set to do any product. But that was possible with the dynamic leadership, that was possible with the strategic approach.
Actually, train for it pretty much. And they are the economic soldiers. I mean, these fighters they actually join the concept or mindset or the forward-thinking, visionary ideas of my father. And proudly will say, own up to this. Actually, 30 জন বাংলাদেশি ফিল্ড দেশে কিন্তু গার্মেন্টসের আজকে 4,000-5,000
right.
So training very, very long way.
Right. So this is still something that needs to be addressed on when we are talking about product diversification, when we are talking about entering new market, high valued product where we still lack some particular skills for many products. So we can definitely take approach from here. And another thing I would also speak about the digitization and the sustainability factors that you mentioned. That very true. Like particularly in the last 5-6 years, actually, drastically the adaptation of digitization, the fourth industrial revolution movement around the world, and sustainability has become buzzwords. And those buzzwords are now actually coming into implementations and execution, and it's becoming a core agenda of how we need to operate. Exactly. So one more thing that when I was talking about BILA as well, that is a platform for knowledge-based building and research-oriented, was born actually because of this identification of the issue. That requirement, like when the youth are coming in, how they can actually bring that into context of the RMG, how they can adapt to it faster. Yeah, like for example, even like when we compare our lifestyles around like every other area, the level of digitization we have entered into, the RMG sector has yet much more space to cover, much more minds to cover to take that full potential. Like in today's world, I know even with the capacity that we have, if we can implement the right automation, the right digitization, keeping our worker pool increasing, we can actually scale with these existing machineries that we have in the industry around 20 to 30% according to research that we have seen.
It's not only that. It's a question of, there are various factors.
Yeah.
There are a country of 180 million people. Tomorrow, there are multiple factors. One, people are, thanks to the e-commerce. প্যান্ডেমিকের পরে কিন্তু আমরা ওয়ার্কার ওইভাবে পাচ্ছি না, স্কিল ওয়ার্কার পাচ্ছি না। ওরা ঘরে বসে they have found means to do little businesses themselves, startup and things like that. So they're not just coming back to work. So এখানে এই lack of skilled labor, this is everything in the garment sector is a huge topic of discussion.
It is.
So the lack of skilled labor will only mean, for instance, that we go towards automation more or
Efficiency, exactly.
Forget skilled labor. যারা এখন আছে, যারা আমার ফ্যাক্টরিতে যাচ্ছে, কোথাও যাবে না, সারা জীবন garment factory ওয়ার্কারই থাকতে চায়, by choice. ওদের efficiency তো it doesn't scale up to what is China.
Yeah.
So এখানে তো অনেক skill development একটা ফ্যাক্টর আছে। আরেকটা হচ্ছে যে যারা যেহেতু আমরা লোক পাচ্ছি না ক্রিটিক্যাল অপারেশনে, যারা লেম্যান ওরাই বেসিক স্কিলের লোকরাই কাজ করতে আসতে চাচ্ছে, যারা একটু বেশি চাচ্ছে, কিন্তু বাংলাদেশ is growing as an economy. So there's electronics, there's software, there's assembly, there's car assembly. কি হচ্ছে না বাংলাদেশে, right? So garments factory hardly ওরা আর কত, they don't want to, they're not the progression আছে। ওইখানে আমাদের অটোমেশন আমাদের কাজে লাগবে। বাংলাদেশের একটা গার্মেন্টস ইন্ডাস্ট্রি যেভাবে মানুষকে কাজ শিখে একটা লেভেলে নিয়েছে, এটা কিন্তু একটা সফটওয়্যার কোম্পানি করতে পারবে।
Fully agree.
আমি জানি ফেয়ার ট্রেড কোম্পানি যিনি ভদ্রলোক, উনি বিজনেসম্যান এন্টারপ্রেনার, স্যামসাং এর অ্যাসেম্বলি করেন, হ্যাঁ, উনি হাইড্রার অ্যাসেম্বলি দিয়ে বাংলাদেশে শুরু করবেন। অ্যাসেম্বলি না, সরি, ম্যানুফ্যাকচারিং শুরু করবেন। প্রথমে অ্যাসেম্বলি, তারপরে So I had a discussion with him on a very informal level, and he said, he is really trying to work with our ministries to set up specifically training modules that taught in the technical colleges. Then he will, oh my goodness, it's a lot of money.
It is.
So, এটা একটা ফ্যাক্টর আছে। প্লাস at the same time, দেখো আমাদের বাংলাদেশের মানুষ এখনো ওরা গ্রামে, এখনো ওদের এই হেলথ অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্স খুব ভালো করে লাগে। সবাই যে একটা ট্যাব উঠায় ঠিক মেরে কাজ করতে পারবে এটা কিন্তু না। তো এই যে আমরা গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরির মালিকরা যারা আছি, এখনো যে আমরা ওদেরকে চাচ্ছি, ওদেরকে আর কি অ্যাবজর্ব করবে? সবাই কিন্তু এসএমই ছোট ব্যবসা করবে না, সবাই কিন্তু একটা মাইক্রো ক্রেডিট প্রোগ্রামে একটা মুরগি ফার্ম করবে না, সবাই কিন্তু টেক সেভি কোম্পানিতে এসএমই করবে না। ওরা কোথায় যাবে?
এক্স্যাক্টলি।
তো কালকে যদি বাংলাদেশে গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরি যে রিকোয়ারমেন্ট চাহিদা এখনো আমাদের আছে, we are catering to everybody.
And there is a huge scope of scaling also.
আজকে গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরি বাংলাদেশে বন্ধ করে দাও, হবে না? Whatever it is, the electronic companies and the car assembly companies cannot absorb the people at the level of people that they absorb it. So we cannot become or do not, or personally if you ask me, I will only fully automated challenge, because I look at my personal garment factory as it's not just a business for me, because it's a legacy for me, because my father set it up. He was a patriot, he was a visionary, he was a freedom fighter, and he did it because he wanted to give employment to the people of the country, not only women employment. For him was a big factor, which is why I am where I am.
Right.
That whole women aspect. So we have to continue to empower and train and teach efficient, make them more efficient. Jara regular worker plus আমরা একটা গ্রুপ নিয়ে তো আমরা upscale training, automation, ওটা তো আমরা শেখাচ্ছি।
Right.
So we are actually balancing out human resources, skill development, empowerment in a way no industry is.
True. Even stats over there, suppose like majority we are exporting to the 80% of the traditional market, right? There is non-traditional, like only we export 16% of our total export to non-traditional market. So there is scope of expanding our markets there. There is scope of expanding our manufacturing capacity within our country. So that will call for more employment as well. So we also need to work on how we can train new pool of workers, like not only upskill what we have, bring in new pools.
No, but Rana doesn't happen because of all the disaster we faced.
Yeah.
We thought the industry would come to an end. But we Bangladeshis industrialists, entrepreneurs are such dynamic, hardworking people. We literally rise like a phoenix from the ashes.
Yes,
and
agreed, fully agreed.
And we did. And we made it better. And Econo, we will continue to make it better. Because that's what us Bangladeshis do. Ami korchi, tapor tomra kurba. It's just going to take off. And therefore, we are going to graduate to the industries. It's a global value chain.
Exactly.
And every developing country
goes for a cycle.
will be at the meeting, and then they will go up. And then one day, hopefully, we will become more of a tech-savvy service industry. Because
that is how the chain and the global circle is. I'll come to Azfar Hassan now, director of Giant Group and also director of Valor. And Azfar, I would like to ask you, as a young generation, as a successor in your organization, you manufacture knit, right? So particularly, I will bring some. Would love to know some aspects of that also. Knit has become very self-sustained in Bangladesh and scaling. So what are the challenges that you faced when you entered your organization to lead, like an organization that has been running in a way, and you with your mindset approach? What are the challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur, as a successor?
If I'd like to start, I think I've been in the industry for 6 years now.
Right.
And jei time I think when we're talking about Rana Plaza, that is when the aftermath factories were prepping to
I totally understand. I joined the business in 2014 as well, just at that time.
2015 আমি ঢুকলাম, so that's when ওই major changes গুলা আসা শুরু হয়েছে. So that was a challenge itself. Of course opportunity আসছে, but then it's safe to say right now Bangladesh is the most compliant industry, garment industry,
right?
Sourcing, manufacturing, and the amount of work we've all put in. That was a challenge in the beginning. I think even for my business, it's a family-run business. It's been around for 35 years. To even make any small changes, it's been difficult. I'm not going to say impossible, right, but it's been difficult. When we're talking about we're talking about technology, we're talking about automation, digitization. To implement an ERP in a company that has been running for 30 years, it was a challenge.
Yes.
And then even small things as training. I don't think if my company, they didn't, like especially the middle managers, they didn't value training. They would think it's a waste of time. Train kore ki hobe, chole jabe.
It's still going on like that, right?
And that's one thing I think it was a challenge for me to push the fact that training goes a long way, like Vidiya said earlier. Those you use the word economic
soldiers,
right? Those 130 people. আসছে বলে সো এখনো
ট্রেনিং এর পরে আপস্কিলিং এর নেক্সট লেভেলের ট্রেনিং কিন্তু এখনো হয় না কিন্তু ওইটাই ইন্ডাস্ট্রি 4.0 এটা নিয়ে আমরা আটকে আছি
right. Transition is creating a friction in our movement.
It is absolutely. So these are the small kind of challenges that I faced, but also to fit into an industry and country as well. I'm not saying it negatively, but the fact that I moved out of Bangladesh when I was 13. I was in a boarding school in Malaysia. I straight went to Canada. But I always knew I wanted to come back because the kind of changes that I can make here, I won't be able to do it anywhere else.
Right.
And I grew up around the garment industry. Every Friday would be my, outing would be Abu Shata Garments, amader factory. But then outing would be I'm either having ice cream or having Coke and I'm enjoying it. But then I knew I'd want to be back here. But then a few years later, it's that I'm taking lead of the same people that used to treat me like a kid. So that was a shift.
I had that problem.
Yeah,
that authority building.
So I also got it, and I still get that.
Yeah. So these are challenges, but we can overcome these challenges. I firmly believe we have to knowledge is power, and to take lead. When I say the word lead, to take lead of any company that has been running for so long, you have to know from the basics. You have to know from the roots, and just at the director tag, by executive director tag, I mean, you have to really learn from the roots. That's what I understood.
And many things there is about unlearning and learning also over here, right? Because when I'm sure, like as you said, you moved out of the country when you were 13, right?
13.
So you had your education and base building in a part of the world which doesn't exactly operate how we are operating our industry right now. So if I'm talking about like over here, we have this approach of ad hoc basis addressing issues and more firefighting mentality. And
we don't have a problem.
Yeah,
we don't.
And what you learn and what others, like many can relate, like all the new generation kids and successors that's coming in the business. They see like it's like to them like I've studied in one syllabus and I'm giving exam in another syllabus.
But you know, science. So let me tell you something. Family businesses are a challenge the world over. 60% of global family businesses shut down by the second generation.
Agree.
Because either there's a lack of interest, or there's a lack of understanding, or a lack of agreeing. Like the bhai jump. Ami dandi ko bandi. Company collapse. Company lasted 3 months.
Right.
So, আমাদের succession plan নেই যে থাকা দরকার because আমরা তো তাও আমাদের বাবা মায়ের সাথে থেকে একটা বাংলাদেশ আছে ঠিক আছে.
What's next?
If I tell I don't have children, but if I tell my future children, if he tells his children, যাও তো তুমি গিয়ে মিরপুরে গিয়ে বসে থাকো, এমনি করে থাকো. Because they'll be like, what are you talking about? They don't, they are on their phone, their life is their phone. I was at the American Apparel Footwear Association summit with your father, who is the president of our PGMEA. And, right at the end, there was a presentation by 2 Gen X kids of the equivalent of, not me, of you guys. Yeah? And basically, they were sitting and they were saying, Jay, oh my God, I read news on the gram. And so the moderator jigesh korchil to boys khub bura die with the gram. But what do you read in the gram? The whole article, oh no, just my headline. And that's it, I get the Sunday newspaper and it takes me a week to read it.
I totally understand, yeah.
We are so far away I am so far away from that culture. But it is what it is.
Yeah, but it needs to be aligned. So, one more aspect that I wanted to know from you as being one of the first elected female member of BGMA Board of Directors, and also it's a male-dominant industry still now. And how has it been for you as in terms of women participation, and what are the challenges you see? Like nowadays, a lot of young generation female members have come over as well. So, on behalf of you all, on behalf of you, would love to know like how easy or hard it has been, or what are the still challenges that the women need to be addressed over here?
Of course, women empowerment, women inclusion, women equality and all this, it's a hot topic.
Yeah.
আমি আবার joke করে বলতাম যে I'm a man trapped in a woman's body. For me to have survived in this industry for so long. When I came on board, I was 28 years old. I was unmarried. I had no children. I literally used to look like a little girl running around. আমি কত buying office গেছি যেখানে my merchandiser walked in আমার আগে, and I walked in and they literally thought আমি ওদের assistant or trainee. So I faced it from people being surprised, foreigners being surprised, oh, she is the owner, to me, my factory staff saying, oh, my choto madam to asche, kotodin thake onar dhorjo thake dekhi. And then, even going to banks or other institutions and saying that, okay, ami ei project korte chacchi. Apni acha. It's very, very challenging. Age is a factor, and age or chele it's much easier. But when you are a woman and an unmarried one, and age is against you too, the beginning was not easy. And of course, the awkward questions. আপনি বিয়ে করেছেন? আপনি বিয়ে কাকে করছেন? ভাই কি করেন? তারপরে প্রথমে আমি প্রশ্নগুলো বুঝতাম না, because ও যেমন বলেছে যে ও বোর্ডিং স্কুলে পড়ে এসেছে. I was also sent off to boarding school right after my O levels, and then I did my I was at boarding school in the UK, and then I did my university and bar and all that, and I came back and I actually never thought I would be a part of this industry. So I wasn't prepared for it, which is probably a good thing, because when you're not prepared and you're depending on your personal, you either survive or you don't. And then of course, with BGMEA, the elections were amazing. Till this day, I always say that I am so grateful that I did the BGMEA elections so early and so young as I was at that time, because it was an eye-opener. I got to meet people. I have the advantage of calling যারা তোমরা আঙ্কেল ডাকো আমি তাদেরকে ভাই ডাকছি, বাট আমি আবার তোমাদের মানে তোমরা আমার সাথেও বেড়াচ্ছ and ঘুরছো. I'm in a very unique position. It is tough for women. It was tougher for women, but now the acceptability is far more.
That's great.
But the prejudices remain.
It remains.
একদম তুমিও আমাকে prejudice মাথায় কাঁপা কমিটা হাঁটতে পারবে না, তুমি সেটা জানতে পারবে না, এখানে ও কাদা ওইখান থেকে কিন্তু শুরু হয় and continue করে. So এখন কি করবো বলো? So it's the current.
But that's the courage, that's the inspiration you guys are sending out to other women as well. So
I think a empowered woman is far more empowered than a man, because we can definitely do what you're doing and some more.
Right.
Very nicely said.
Well put.
I mean, you can leave it to you people. Generation will end, humanity must.
Oh, definitely. You need that balance. Definitely. Let's talk a bit about the future forecasting that we are having. We talked about the challenges, we talked about where we came from. So, like considering the perception right now the success are having, like the perception that the industry is having right now, where do you see, like I'll take Azfar's input first, that in 10 years in terms of digitization, sustainability, or how the industry will operate or grow and what level in next 10 years? How do you see the journey or the...
Okay, if I start from right now we're a very attractive destination in South Bangladesh, right, to source. We're also heading, বড় ভাবে না, but we're also product diversification থেকে শুরু করে, we're upskilling, we're also getting into synthetic fibers, we're doing diversified products like outerwear, lingerie, but এটা বাড়াতে হবে, because এখনো we're mostly based on cotton based.
The high luxury brands গুলা
tap করতে হবে, and ওই ট্যাপের জন্য we have to get in technical skills and everything, but I firmly believe in the next 10 years, if we do smart investments and if we take a holistic approach to partnering with the manufacturing, all other stakeholders, government, financial institutions, I think the industry will grow. And
you think for this growth, the funding that's required, the finance that's required for this mass expansion and all, do you think our ecosystem right now has that support, or we need to work more in terms of injecting more investments into?
Before I answer your question, I'm going to address something that he said very importantly. You have to have this holistic approach.
To think about the whole.
Sustainable.
Yeah.
It has to be community-based. It's not about how much water I save, but it's also about how I enrich my community, how I add value to the community, and how they pay us back. আগের কলের concept এই কাজ করা করতেই হবে everyone forget it. উঠে হাঁটাহাঁটি, rightfully so.
True.
Why not?
Exactly.
So that's one thing. And the finances, well, we usually go to traditional banking sources. Then there are non-banking financial institutions. Then, of course, you go beyond, you can access the capital markets, funds. There are bonds, there are green bonds, there are preferential bonds. As you know or may not know, for example, BSEC, Bangladesh Security Exchange Commission, has taken a very active drive, and they did a lot of roadshows. Professor Shabir Islam, chairman of BSEC, he has taken a lot of very active, proactive roles where we did roadshows in Dubai, in Switzerland, there was one in New York, and he's done a lot of promotion, asking for further investment. So our capital market is a good place to be.
All right, that's
And that's an alternative
one angle,
source.
yeah.
But একটা জিনিস যেটা আমাদের ব্যাংকরা, especially post COVID, or any financial, non-financial banking institution, what they must understand is that this interest rate and this rigidity, and I had to fight with my bank to through COVID. He said, "After the নতুন order নেই," and I said, "Hey, আমার তো নতুন order নাই, আমি বুঝলাম, কিন্তু আমার সরকার তো আমাকে 100% export oriented ফ্যাক্টরিগুলো নিয়েও এখন লোকালি PPE বলেন, মাস্ক বলেন, স্ক্রাবস বলেন, অন্য একটা লোকাল আইটেম বানানোর পারমিশন তো দিচ্ছে। আপনারা এই ইনকামটা কেন accept করছেন? Why you are saying I'm deadbeat, I have no income, where I am very much continuing to produce?" So they don't acknowledge these things.
the business model innovations and the revenue stream innovations.
আমাদেরকে বলবে be more innovative, be more this and that, but then they will box us in very traditional boxes. Because pre-COVID যে interest rate নিয়েছে, একটা banking financial institutions have thousands of crore টাকার profit. We all know this in the newspaper. কোথায় আমাদেরকে দিল 5%? এই যে সরকার আমাদেরকে, আমাদের মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী সরকার আমাদেরকে এত অ্যাসিস্ট করলো by প্রণোদনা and telling the banks যে ইন্টারেস্ট দিতে হবে না, বা 50% দিলে, তারপর নন ব্যাংকিং এর জন্য 25% দিলে, এগুলা দিলে তোমরা চলতে পারো। কি
এক্স্যাক্টলি
কমার্শিয়াল ব্যাংকগুলো সেন্ট্রাল ব্যাংকের ইনস্ট্রাকশন শুনতে চায় না, ঠিকই তো পাই করে আমাদের 1% ইন্টারেস্ট রেট কমিয়েছে।
That is the thing. That is the challenge. Like when you are solving an industry issue, you're talking about scaling in a challenging world. You need this support.
And the way we traditionally take our finances, আমার বাপ দাদা চলতো, পুরুষের যদি জমি না থাকে, আমি কি বাংলাদেশে ইন্ডাস্ট্রি করতে পারবো?
Exactly.
কি collateral দিব?
All collaterals and everything. There are many factories right now because of lack of collateral, not being able to have limits.
Limited liability.
Yes.
Our father messes up, my child is going to jail because of that.
Yes.
So there must be limited liability. Otherwise, and of course, let's not go into the subject of infrastructure.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous costs.
The other cost of business that stays high.
Half an hour, 45 minutes to finish this.
Right.
These things must be, streamlined.
From the macro factors, we really need this support for. Otherwise, internally, whatever we scale, and they'll just go away. Yep. One of the reasons that we are not being able to attract enough FDIs into our industry.
Given Bangladesh's thriving
Exactly.
situation.
Yeah, it's coming in top 10 destination of the world, and in World Bank reports and all, but still we are not being able to attract the FDIs. That means we really need to work in some policies.
The ease of doing business with Nahai, when we won't have the preferential access from your country, we won't be cash back, and we won't be able to compete. So of course, we have to work on ourselves. We have to increase efficiency, but on ease of doing business, we have to work on that.
So we can sum it up in this way: that 10 years, we do see an industry growth opportunity. We do see this industry scaling higher, lot more opportunities to tap. But we really need support.
We need a very strategic, streamlined, concise plan.
Yes,
we cannot deviate from that plan.
And that plan has to be supported by industry players, government, external stakeholders. All stakeholders have roles to play. So it's not like one company will change the dynamics or one organization will change the dynamic. We really need that holistic approach and streamlining of the whole process. Having said that, I will finish the discussion today. Thank you so much, Vidiya. Thank you so much, Azfar.
Thank you.